Hello. This is the second or the sequel in a two-part video sequence on kissing frogs. It's designed and directed primarily at women and young gals looking for a permanent relationship and looking to settle in with Mr. Right. But I think it's also appropriate for men. The first video expressed some hard truths. If you have not had an opportunity to look at it, it's only 10 or 12 minutes long. You'll find it at our website at trueheart.net, truhart.net, under the title of Kissing Frogs. The truths expressed in it came down to some fundamentals that we are by nature and by God's design different, men and women. We're not designed to compete, although we do compete. We're not designed to do the same things in the same way. We have different gifts and talents. What we are designed for is to come together with those different talents and gifts and capabilities and come together to form a complementary whole. That whole is designed to function within the context of a covenant marriage. Covenant meaning you don't break it. Once you engage in it, it's for life. That gives it the reliability and the stable foundation to build on. Without that commitment, there is no real foundation. In our culture, we have a hard time honoring our commitments. Marriage today is more like a lottery ticket, frankly. If you win, you stick it out. If you don't, you move on down the road. It's not the way God designed it. He designed marriage to form a whole between two complementary parties. And it's that I want to talk about in this video for just a few minutes, not in terms of concepts, but in terms of how it plays out in the real world. And I would like to make the point up front that fundamentally we are designed with different needs and different gifts. Men are designed to achieve, to take care of things, to go out and conquer hunting and fishing and so forth, and to earn the respect that comes from that. So our real need is to acquire respect and to do it based on our achievements. Women, on the other hand, are designed primarily for relationships and need love. You're much better at relationships, frankly, than we are. But once you come to grips with those two concepts, love and respect, it helps us to understand that we're not to be competing with one another. But within the covenant of a marriage, we should form a complementary whole and an unbreakable whole, because it's grounded in a covenant, taking an oath before God, who is frankly the third party in that covenant, and he will help us guarantee the outcomes. If you don't invoke God, or think you're not invoking God, you're still in a covenant relationship when you get married. God considers it a covenant whether you do or not, and that's something you may want to chew on. But I want to talk for just a few minutes about what it looks like for men to love their wives and for women to respect their husbands. If we do nothing more than get those concepts right and begin acting on them, a lot of marriages are going to not only be saved, but they're going to improve. In Proverbs, which is a book of the Old Testament in the Bible, King Solomon in Proverbs chapter 21 verse 9 said it's better for a man to barricade himself on the corner of a roof than to live in the house with a contentious woman. Solomon is considered to be the smartest guy that ever lived on planet Earth. So if he said it, I'm going to take his word for it. But what does that look like? What he's really talking about is respect. And I want to talk about that first, and then I'll come back and talk about men loving their wives. Ladies, in the book of Ephesians in the Bible, it tells us that you, as the wife, are to be subject to your husband's authority in the house and to show him respect, whether you feel like it or not, or whether you think he deserves it or not. We're not always good at earning respect, but God expects us to respect our spouses regardless. He also expects men to respect governing authority and be subject to it. We all have a boss, and in the household, God established men as the head of the household. That doesn't mean you have to roll over and be a doormat, but if you show your husband respect, it's going to go a long ways to fixing a strained relationship. And here's what it looks like. When Solomon talks about retreating to a corner of the house to get away from a nagging wife, in our society we don't retreat to the rooftop. That corner of the rooftop in our world, for a husband who is consciously or unconsciously trying to find relief from a strained relationship, that rooftop may look like a fishing boat. It may look like way too much overtime at work, which we would consider job dedication, but may also play out to the fact that he'd rather be at work than at home relating to his wife. It may look like bowling night or boys' night out. It may look like a hobby that prevents him from spending time with you. So here's the question, and this is something that took me a long time to learn, and it applies to both men and women. I'm realizing in my old age, if I just learned two things, my life and the lives of those people I interact with are likely to get better quickly. The first thing is I need to learn to bite my tongue. And the second thing I need to do is learn not to react, but to take my time, take a breath, choose my attitude towards the circumstances I'm facing, and then respond from a proper attitude. If I do those two things, and as I've learned to implement those two principles, my life has improved, my peace has increased, and my relationship with people around me has improved dramatically, including with my wife. Ladies, I would suggest something to you. If you have a tendency to criticize your husband, to nag your husband, all I would ask you to do is this. Ask yourself, before you open your mouth, is what I'm about to say likely to make my husband feel more warm and fuzzy toward me, or less warm and fuzzy? And you'll be able to answer that question, and you'll know what to do with the answer. Our problem is that we have the wrong way about going about building better relations. I'd like to talk a little bit about men loving their wives. Ladies, we're not perfect, but we're the head of the household by God's design. If you learn to choose, whether you feel like it or not, to show respect for us, the payoff is going to be dramatic. And men loving our wives isn't always about buying them roses or sending them an anniversary card or taking them out to dinner on Valentine's Day. Loving our wives really isn't even about feelings. Our feelings are going to come and go. And they can be built, our relationship can be built block by block in a way that has a tendency to sustain our emotional end of our marriage, where we truly do feel love and intimacy with our wives. But primarily, love is a choice and an action. And here's how it works in our world, and I'll give you a personal example. Love isn't what we feel, it's what we do. It's taking care of things that are important to our wives. They may not be important to us, but if they're important to our wife, you know what? We should deal with it. I have a real weak area in my own life and have had for most of my adult life. I've been in business for myself. I hate, and I mean hate with a passion, bookkeeping and filing taxes. I've never cheated on my taxes, and I've never not filed a return. But I am habitually late, constantly filing extensions, constantly putting it off and saying, I'll get to it, I'll get to it, I'll get to it. Guess what? At an advanced age, I realize this is very important to my wife. It may not be to me because I know I'm going to get the taxes filed and get them taken care of. But it's important to her that it be done on time. So I've made a vow, which I don't do often. Vows are not things we should undertake lightly. But I vowed that this will be the last year I ever file an extension on my taxes. They're going to be filed on time and properly from here on out because it's important to my wife. Do you have a to-do list from your wife? You're going to get to it sooner or later. It's important to her. It may not look like it's important to us, but if it's important to her, take care of it. Demonstrate your love by taking care of the things that are important to her. If we do these two things, ladies, respect your husband, bite your tongue before you nitpick at him, and men, if you take care of the things sooner rather than later that are important to your wife, your marriage is going to improve.